Okay, hello. What I'm going to talk about is that I'm going to try to classify different types, different sorts of applied theater and educational uses of theater, mainly based on Hungarian practices, but also with some sort of an international lookout. And this is based on two researches I've been leading in the past. One of them is this one. This is unfortunately Hungarian. We did this with this man here, Adam Betlen-Falvi. In 2013, we were mapping all kinds of educational theater and drama programs in Hungary. And as a result, we summarized it in this book. The other research from which I'm taking the examples is this one, DICE research. This was a research with the involvement of 12 countries and some 4,500 kids from 12 countries, investigating the effect or impact of drama and theater on Lisbon key competencies. Chris, for example, on behalf of Big Bram, have been involved in this research and also authored one of the outputs of the research. So, I'm
not sure why I can't get it.
Okay. Okay. Until Adam manages to get it on the screen, I just start talking about it. What I'm going to talk about is that I'm going to cover different areas. First, I'm going to look at how traditional or classical theater tries to interact with its audience. Then I'm going to look at different areas of applied theater. So applying theater in health and therapy, applying theater in business, applying theater in community and social issues. And then finally, I will focus on applying theater and drama in education. And here, I will try to focus more and more into what we are doing, so narrow it down to what we are doing or what we are exploring during this conference. So the first about the use, how traditional or classical theater tries to interact with its audience. So the classical theatrical setting is actually what we see here. There is a fourth wall, invisible fourth wall, and there is, so the stage is dark, people are just watching, and of course there is some sort of an interaction going on, but so it's not in the sense how we use it in a sociological way. The very easiest way is what traditional theater would do is to position the audience to somewhere else. So, for example, to position the audience around the stage. And the audience members are not just watching the play, but watching each other while they are watching the play. Another thing what traditional theater would do is what we call közönségtalálkozó in Hungarian, meeting the audiences after a performance, which means that the director and the actors sit on the audience, sit on the stage, tell to the people what they think about the performance, and sometimes the people can ask questions, but it's not always like that. Another way would be, it's quite interesting, you are just missing some illustrations, but we will just cover it quickly. So another way how interactivity can be achieved in traditional audience is what we call so-called quasi interactions or closed interactions. This is especially popular in children's theater or puppet theater. My older son is 4.5 years old, and I'm taking him to many different kind of children's theater recently and puppet theater recently. And I would say almost all children's theater is living with the act that at a certain point of the play, some kids from the audience are invited to the stage to be trees or dogs or sing a song together, or just the most banal thing is that they are asked which way did the wolf go, and the children start shouting that way. So this is the kind of popular interaction what is happening in children's theater. I'm calling it quasi interaction or closed interaction because it is quite easy to get to know in advance what the reaction will be. So actually the actors won't be surprised When the kids are asked which way did the wolf go, they will shout that way. When they are invited to the stage to act as trees or dogs or whatever, they will happily go to the stage and stand there as organic parts of the scenery. But actually, so it's quite easy to calculate what will happen. And I would distinguish this from what we are exploring here. I would distinguish this from open interactions. Open interactions are kind of interactions where such questions are being asked when the actor or the drama program leader cannot really know in advance what is going to happen, what is going to be the response of the audience. So we are here now within classical theater. I've been covering mid-dictate audiences. I've been covering quasi-interactions. So this is just a good example. This is what I'm talking about when kids are invited to the stage to do this. And also a third way how classical or traditional theater tries to interact with audiences is very popular now in Hungary, especially because we have 2 television shows based on this. It's improvisation for amusement, so not with a purpose of pedagogy or social inclusion, just for making fun. It can be done in a very good way. It can be very effective to cheer up an audience, and it is they are 2 very popular TV shows with the participation of quite good actors. But actually, what we would be interested in is how theater or dramatic activities are being applied. And let's see first the therapeutic usages of theater and drama. Psychodrama is very, very popular in Hungary, and as far as I know, also in many Eastern European countries. It is a therapeutic use of drama. So it means that actually in psychodrama we are working together for 3 or 4 or 5 years. So a group is working together for a long period of time, meeting many times for a long period of time. And they are working in psychodrama, they are working with their own stories. So their own stories from their own childhood, for example, or their own stories from their own private lives. They are dramatizing this, and through dramatizing this, they are working on it. If it works well, through a long process, it ends up in a healing or understanding ourselves a bit better. It is actually a genre introduced by Moreno, and it has many similar branches. There is psychodrama for children, there is sociodrama, which is very similar, but it's looking at the social roles, but it's also working social roles in our own lives. Bibliodrama is actually taking stories from the Bible and starts dramatizing stories from the Bible. And playback theater is again a very popular genre in Hungary based on psychodrama. Actors members of the audience can tell stories. Come to the stage, tell stories to the actors, and the actors are playing it back. Sometimes it can reveal something. Usually it is actually rather used for fun. Another therapeutic use of drama is drama therapy. Drama therapy as a genre is not very well known in Hungary, but in other countries it is if I'm right, it's even older than drama in education, using very similar techniques as drama in education uses, but for therapeutic means, but just for the reason of getting to know myself better. A very similar genre, which is present in Hungary and which is very strongly present in Hungary, is the so-called theater therapy. In theater therapy, it is done with people who are recovering from drug abuse. So they are together going to a camp where they are not using any substances. In a camp, they are preparing a play, and later they present this play back to their families, to their community members. So this is also a very important genre which is present in Hungary. Let's go and look at the business, the ways how drama and theater is being applied in business. I'm just grabbing two ideas from here, two different examples from here. One is the so-called theater training. Theater training is usually, or theatrical training is usually done by practicing actors or directors. They go to companies, and at companies, with the help of what we would call like actor training or acting sports or improvisation techniques, they are preparing company members, for example, to sell better. So such theatrical trainings are done, for example, call center members or leaders as sort of a communication training. Another genre is drama training. Drama training is also used in the business life for companies. This is the kind of genre when drama in education, so actually building up stories together and exploring situations together, are applied in a business setting for specifically designed for a company setting. Okay, let's move to the community and social usages or applications of drama and theater. Social theater, that's a huge area. On its own, we could talk 2 hours about this. So this is a huge, huge area, social theater. Social theater is actually a kind of genre where mostly what is happening, like some sort of a vulnerable group, for example, people with intellectual disability or homeless citizens or prisoners, together with members of the mainstream society. They create theatrical pieces and they perform these theatrical pieces on the stage, in a professional theatrical setting, on the stage for their family members and their community members. This genre is especially popular in Southern Europe, so in countries like Italy and Spain. But for example, when talking about homeless citizens, I can cite the cardboard citizens from London. The next one is community theater. That's also a huge, extremely huge genre on its own. In community theater, actually the theatrical performance is made together with members of a community. So usually actors, a director, and usually some researchers go to a village or a district of a city, and together with some of the locals who are interested in creating a theatrical piece, they together create a performance, and then they present it back to the community. And then they actually, after that, they leave the community. Theater of the Oppressed by Augusto Boal. That's also a huge area. I think it's important to mention that originally, Theater of the Oppressed, and especially the most well-known area of it, forum theater, was designed for a social intervention. So it wasn't designed for a pedagogical goal. It was designed for changing the structure of a micro-community. And actually, Augusto Boal didn't just create forum theater. He also created 7 different kind of genres. But forum theater is the one which is the most well-known and the most well-spread. Not just in Hungary, but especially in ex-Yugoslavian countries. It is a very, very popular genre. So just very, very basically what forum theater is about originally is also it starts in a community. Some members of the community create together with actors and the director a play, in which play there is a protagonist. The protagonist, by the end of the play, gets in trouble. So gets raped, for example, or gets beaten up by his or her classmates. So the story ends in a way when the protagonist is in big, big trouble. And what the audience members are invited afterwards is that they can jump back to any part of the story and they can give advices to the protagonist what to do differently in order to change the outcome of the situation. Even they can go to the stage and take the place of the protagonist, sometimes not just the place of the protagonist, but also some other characters, never the oppressed, and try to change the outcome of the situation. So it's very important to see that actually forum theater is looking, or trying to look, in most cases, trying to look for solutions, which is a way, I would say, it's differentiating from what the kind of genre we are exploring during this conference. DBH Theatre is a genre initiated by, in Hungary by Roundtable Theatre, an education company. Sketches, little scenes of theaters are used to start a debate, and after that, an organized debate is facilitated around the issue, which was initiated by the theatrical pieces. And improvisational theater can be, not necessarily is, but can be used for community developmental purposes. So it can be used in a way that, for example, if they are taking improvisational theater to such a community where theater has never been before, and they start improvising a scene in the middle, let's say, of the main square of a village, and just villagers gather around and they just start watching, it could be used in a way that it could have like some strong community developmental effect. But, okay, so just very briefly, let's now narrow it down to educational drama. In Hungarian, we would call it differently. We would call it tágabb értelemben vett színházi nevelés. So actually, for a genre to be considered as part of this, according to Adam B. and me, so this is just a proposal, again, I'm saying again, this is something we proposed in 2013, and no one replied to this so far, so that's why I'm presenting this. So according to us, educational drama is for children or young people with a pedagogical goal, and it is using dramatic or theatrical tools. Anything that is part of this, or anything that belongs to these three together, can be considered part of it. And there are a lot of different things here, a lot of different things. One is that one is theater for early years. It is especially popular in Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. A lot of such programs are offered for kids who are under 3. It has been established in Hungary a few years ago by Kolibri Színház. Okay. A gigantic area. Again, this, we could talk a day about it. It's children and youth acting. Children and youth acting is when a group of children or young people, together with a teacher or a drama teacher or an actor or a facilitator, create some sort of a performance. As a result, they show it to someone. They show it usually to their families, usually to their parents. Usually it is a longer process. Usually it is done throughout a year or half a year. And at the end of the year, they end up with a performance. But it could be done within an epochal week of an alternative school. Or it could be done within a camp, a summer camp. Or even during a single event. We have seen such programs where children arrive, and during 3 or 4 hours, they are preparing a very, very limited sketch. And at the end of the 3 or 4 hours, they present it back to their families, and the families are recording. So there are many different forms of this. Also, when a teacher is preparing a directed performance or a directed show for some school celebration, it is also some sort of an application of children and youth acting. Drama in education, or process drama, or creative drama. This is again an incredibly huge field. It is a genre originating from the United Kingdom, but even within the United Kingdom there are many different schools. And since Professor David Davis and Chris Cooper is talking after me, I'm not going to get into this very deeply. Just mention two two larger schools which are present in Hungary, and not just in Hungary, but also throughout Europe. They are the most well-spread technology or methodologies. And it is surprisingly not Dorothy Heathcote and not Gavin Bolton, but Jonathan Neelands is one of them. So Jonathan Neeland's Structuring Drama work it's a book by Jonathan Neelands. It has been translated to some 30 languages. It's a very, very practical book which actually breaks down drama in education or process drama to different kind of so-called conventions. It helps teachers to understand what conventions is for which age group, what sort of, how it works. It gives explanations, and also it gives some sort of a guidance on planning. So how to combine these conventions into a drama in education program. This is because it is easy to teach, or I would say rather it's easy to learn. It's not easy to teach, apology. It's easy to learn, or at least I would say to a certain level, anyone could be taught to understand the basics of this methodology and to apply this methodology. After that, it's talent, but to a certain level, it could be learned. Because of that, I think it's quite popular and quite well spread. It's the most well spread school in Hungary, and also it is quite well spread in, let's say, Czech Republic, Poland, and a lot of the neighboring Eastern European countries. Another school is, which I would say, quite different from what Jonathan Neelands is saying, is based on the theatrical theory of Edward Bond, and has been developed by Professor David Davis and Chris Cooper. So this is what we are going to hear about more. And this is the kind of genre, kind of methodology this conference is exploring. Yesterday, if you had a chance to take part in one of the workshops, it is very likely that you had the chance to experience how this methodology works. Games or simple role play. Currently, the latest compendium of such games in Hungary includes some 500 games. So these are the games, kind of dramatic activities, which are very well spread, very well known by not just drama teachers, but also a lot of other teachers, social workers, youth workers are applying them. And I'm quite sure that each one of you know at least 10 or 20 of these, or even more. The way or the thing why it is differentiated from drama in education or process drama or creative drama is that it's not necessarily, so the objective is quite much different. In process drama or creative drama or drama in education, you always set up either a situation or a complete story to which the participants enter, sometimes in a role, sometimes from the perspective of a role, and they are exploring it, and they are facing real-life problems, and they are experiencing real-life problems and questions. Here, you don't necessarily put even the kids or young people in role. If it's an improvisational game, you will, but if it's like a simple communication game or icebreaker, then you won't. Complex theater pedagogical projects. I must bring this theater as an example, because there are two theaters now in Hungary which work in this way. One of them is this theater, Örkény István. The other one is Katona. These are such projects where it's not just about child and youth acting. It's not just about creating a product at the end, but also there is a complex process through which the facilitator of the program leads through the young people, it includes creative writing, research, interviewing, watching performances in the theater, and a lot of other things. And as a result, or as one of the results, there might be a theatrical piece which is presented. Different kind of tools that help children or young people to understand the performance. several examples of this. A booklet for teachers, which helps the teachers work with the performance. The Hungarian Language Teachers Association publishes such booklets to, I think so far it has published such booklets to at least 40 or 50 performances in Hungary. And this is a booklet that can be downloaded by the teachers, and they find practical guidance how to work based on the performance with their class. The similar thing is done in a form of a training for teachers in some theaters. And it's not really here, but I mentioned it here, making a performance accessible for deaf and hard hearing or visually impaired children and young people is also a sort of tool that helps children or young people to understand the performance. Courses, conferences, workshop, festivals are also part of this area. For example, these 3 days, we could look at it as a complex project or process. Actually, we try to edit it in a way that it has a beginning and the end, and an end. So let's narrow it down to educational theater in Hungarian Színházi Nevelési program, according to the suggestion of Adam B. and me. So what it is? 5 things, 5 criteria. It has to be primarily for those attending public education. It has to include a theatrical performance or at least some theatrical scenes. It has to have a clear pedagogical goal. It has to have open interactions in it, which is quite important. So it's not like the kind of closed interactions or quasi-interactions I've been talking about at the beginning of my presentation, but we are opening up questions, we are asking such questions or offering such interactions to the participants, which is offering them real questions, which are real questions for them. So actually, I would also say that in dramatically or dramaturgically, the actors cannot prepare to the response. A lot of different kind of things could be said by the participants. And the 5th thing is that it needs to be on a repertoire. So it's not just a one-case single event. It's not just happening once, but it happens on a repertoire different times, different classes or different groups are coming to the same program. And so actually, we would suggest 3 different kind of categorizations. Categorization based on form, based on methodology, and based on educational aim. And these 3 categorizations are parallel. So each program, each educational theater program could be put into in one of these in these 3 categorizations could be put in one category. First, if you are looking at the categorization based on method, there are actually, in Europe, there are 3 main schools or main ways: the British way, the German way, and the French way. And besides, there are of course a lot more. But these are the 3 main directions. The British drama in education or theatre in education, as I already said, it's a huge area on its own. It has a lot of different schools. In this conference, we are focusing on that field or that genre, which originates from Edward Bond's theatrical theory and puts it into practice. And this is especially developed by Professor David Davis and Chris Cooper. The German Theaterpädagogik is a different school. It has developed parallel with the British way. In Germany and in Germany area, so it's also in Austria or parts of Switzerland it's present. So actually, this theater also has a theater pedagogical workshop, and this workshop, I mean, 7 people are working here as members of this theater pedagogical workshop. This workshop is an organic part of the theater's daily operation, so it's not something that is separate from the theater, but it takes part in the theater's daily life in many different ways, organizing theater pedagogical projects and also organizing pre-show and post-show discussions or workshops for children and young people, for make them the theater performances which are on the stage more accessible. The French way, basically it is done in a way that an actor or a director, so an artist, visits a class, a school class, works with the class for a week, and as a result they create a performance together. So it's very important that in the French way it's not always necessarily prescribed for the actor or the director who starts working with a class in a school to have some sort of a drama pedagogical experience. The person goes there and uses its artistic or theatrical experience. There are some Hungarian methods that needs to be mentioned. The traditional way of Hungarian drama pedagogy and also the work of József Rust. And also we have seen a lot of such programs which lack methodology or they are prepared in an autodidactic way. Actors or directors work with children based on their own theatrical practices, trainings, or intuition. Look at the form. What sort of different forms are present? Participatory theater. In Hungarian, we would say interactive színház. Részvételi színház in Hungarian means something completely different. So participatory theater would be kind of a genre when there is an ongoing strong interaction with the audience throughout the entire performance. The actors are talking to the audience and asking quasi questions from the audience. I say quasi questions because they don't always wait for a response. It can create a very strong engagement for the audience members. Classroom theater. Classroom theater is the kind of genre when the theatrical piece is taken to the classroom. Usually it's 2, 3, 4 actors, very rarely more than them. So they work in the classroom for the scope of 1 or 2 school classes. So it's 45 minutes or 90 minutes. And as part of it, sometimes they do some pre or post show workshops, but not necessarily. Interpretive theater. That would be methodology of József Rust. It's not a good translation for that, but we couldn't find a better one. It's the kind of genre when the theatrical piece is stopped after each scene or after several scenes, and the facilitator or a moderator is either telling some information to the audience members about what they have seen. So if it's, let's say, about the Greek theater, tells information about the characters, what is their origination, how actors acted in Greece, and so on. Sometimes it is interactive. So sometimes the facilitator or the moderator asks questions from the audience and helps them to understand what the theatrical piece is about. Pre or post-show discussion, it's quite easy. So something that is happening at a discussion before or after a performance. If it includes dramatical elements as well, then it is a pre or post-show workshop. And the TIA or Theatre and Education Program should be mentioned here as a genre on its own. It is a genre that combines theatrical scenes with discussions and dramatic forms. Offers many different work forms, roles, perspectives. With frequent changes, the theatrical parts and reflective interactive parts form a coherent whole. Usually it lasts for 2 to 4 hours, with usually the participation of 1 school class. This is the kind of methodology done in Hungary mainly by Roundtable Theatre and Education Company and Kava Theatre and Education Company. And finally, just categorization based on educational aim. So the different programs can have different educational aims. Programs could investigate human values or social issues. For example, discrimination, multiculturalism, love, friendship, democracy, and so on. Different moral, human, social, philosophical, psychological questions. Programs can help understanding or appreciating theater. Understanding the theater language the piece, the text, the intentions of the creators, or how theater works. Some programs transmit knowledge as a form of a school instruction, usually connected to the curriculum, but not always. Some programs are preventive, so programs which intend to prevent drug abuse or victimization or suicide, or teach kids about behaving the law and driving safely and such. And also, there are some programs which focus on skills development. So, developing skills and competencies, communication, foreign language, creativity, movement, non-verbality, and so on. Obviously, most or all programs would have an effect on all 5 of these. But as we found after looking at 118 different kind of programs, each program can be easily classified as into one of these 5. So each program is usually working in the field of one of these in its center. So basically, this is a suggestion, as I repeated, or as I said so far, and I repeated that this is a suggestion made by us for the classification of applied theater, educational drama, and educational theater. I'm aware that so there are a lot of debates going on about this in Hungary. When we published it in 2013, there has been a lot of workshops and a lot of conferences where we had discussions about it. It's not closed yet, so so far there is no newer classification. And also I'm aware that a lot of debates are there even in the United Kingdom. So these terms are used maybe in a different ways by different experts. So just the intention was to try to position what we are exploring during these 3 days, and also to position what we are not exploring. Thank you so much.